right, cool. Well, I just want to welcome you guys back to High Country Hangouts. This is our second recording that we've done. So I'm just going to start out by throwing out the Instagram. It's going to be High Country Hangouts. And then we also have an email, which is highcountryhangouts@gmail.com. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to give us an email and we'll check them out. So aside from that, I think we're going to do a little bit of NFL draft talk, a little bit of fantasy implications, kind of what that means, and then just kind of talk to you about a couple other things, a couple hobbies, and we'll get out of here. So, what's up, dude? How are things going?
I'm doing good, man. I think something I noticed last time, or at least on the video, is, I like to look at the screen, and so I see your face, right? But when I'm watching back and editing, I'm like, I should probably be looking at the camera, And so you can it's actually like a conversation going on. But when I'm on this, when I was editing, I'm like, man, I'm looking down. I need to look up. Looks a little better, a little more.
I know, I feel the same because when I'm looking down because the screen's a little lower than my camera, so it looks like I'm looking down, but actually I am looking at
Yeah,
you. It looks a little funny,
it's
but yeah,
definitely an
I thought
adjustment.
the
It's
same
like,
thing.
hey, I'm trying to have this conversation with you, but I need to be looking right here. So. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, man,
yeah, it's very
things are
true.
good. I think when we talked last, we were going to start off with introing our pets. We talked about a little bit about them in our last episode, and um, we have really, we have two cool dogs, and then Tad also has a cat, Bagheera. I do not know how to spell Bagheera. I try to. I just keep failing at that shit. But I'm gonna give you a little, intro on Poe. I've had Poe for 6 years now. He's a really cool dog. He is right there, chilling. You can see him. Yeah. Being a good boy. He likes to chase geese, chase muskrats. I live on I live on 50 acres out here in Red Lodge. And there's a pond, and so there's a goose out there, and there's geese sometimes, a full flock, and a bunch of muskrats and ducks, and he loves to chase them. So we were out there a little bit earlier chasing them around, and we used to do agility, which was cool. He was really into that, and it was a great way to like train him up, and make him. It helped with like obedience for sure, and him listening, and I think it just helped him become a better dog.
Has Poe ever caught anything that he chased?
He tries really hard for them muskrats, man. You see him so they'll like go under the water and then they'll pop up and then they'll go under the water. So he just like stares and he's like, how do I get them little fuckers, And no luck yet, but he's tried to go after the goose a couple times. I'm glad he has not touched the goose. It being by the water, I'm not really worried about it because it can just get in there real quick and hide. He can go out to the middle of the pond, and it's not a big deal. But no luck yet, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I don't need him. He has caught a mouse though. I had a mouse in my place this winter, and I woke up in the morning and it was not alive. So he's a good mouser.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'll introduce Tonks real quick. She's my dog. We named her after Harry Potter because my wife, she's a big Harry Potter fan. So
Ooh, my
we
wife.
are.
Nice.
I
You
know,
said my
right?
wife. Let's go.
Has a different ring to it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we're planning the wedding is this October, but we ended up signing the papers a little early so that we could get everything kind of worked out with paperwork and insurance and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's official. She's officially my wife now. So, yeah, it's pretty
Congrats,
cool.
man. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, Tonks, she's a rescue. We got her when she was about 10 months old, and she's well, we don't really know what she is, but we think that she's at least half German Shepherd and then a little bit of Husky or something that makes one of her eyes blue and one of her eyes brown, because she's about 50-pound German Shepherd looking dog, but she has one blue eye and one brown eye, so she's a pretty cool looking dog. She also loves to chase stuff. She likes to chase bunnies and she likes to chase ducks and birds. Um, she has caught a bunny just in the past like 2 weeks, or maybe the past month. But yeah, she caught her first bunny in the backyard and killed it. It was not a great time for me, but ended up burying it and tried to be a little bit better about watching her and scaring the rabbits out of the yard before I let her out. But it's just instinct, you know. She's a predator and the bunny's prey, so
Yeah, you can't stop that, man. Instinct is like, I mean, that's thousands of years of like instinctual, like, I gotta chase. Like, you can't stop it. Like, you can do
yep,
your best. And there are a lot of people that have dogs that are like that well trained, but that's a robot, in my opinion. In a way, like, you can still have a great relationship with those dogs, but I like having a dog that's a dog, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, Tonks, she's my first dog I've ever had, and with me getting her when she was almost a year, she kind of had a few bad habits that I didn't get ahead of, and it was really hard for me to train them out of her. I think it'd be hard for anybody, honestly, but also just with her being my first dog, there was like a little bit of a learning curve.
There
So
totally is. It's
yeah,
I think, the advice I like to give people is like teach your dog how to be chill. And it might not really make sense, but when I got Poe, he was a puppy, and that's kind of why I got a puppy is I didn't want to start with a dog that had bad habits. Um,
yeah,
and so I could, build those good habits just from the start. And what we'd work like on our stuff a lot, like the sit and the lay down and all that good stuff. And I think once he was done, he kind of like learned how to just relax. And so like if I go and I, train him for 5 minutes, he's just ready to, take a chill pill. Like he's not looking to get more out of it. He's looking to be like, okay, I worked and now I'm done. And so I try to give that advice to people, and especially when they have puppies. I think it's easier to get ingrain that in them. But when you have a dog that's a year old and there's bad habits already, it's hard to work through that for sure.
yeah, yeah. And you're describing it. Yeah, it's like the exact opposite of a reactive dog. You know, it's a relaxed dog, and it's just going through the motions with them, making sure they're exposed to certain things. Because Tonks, I don't think she was exposed to enough dogs as a puppy or whatnot. Because every time she sees a dog, it's just like it's like seeing Disneyland for the first
Yeah,
time when you're 5 years old, man. She acts like a complete maniac, not in an aggressive way, but she just wants to go over there and say hi and sniff them. And sometimes you can't do that, you know. Not all dogs are able to be sniffed and said hi to. So it's just it's a constant work in progress. But like yeah, like I said, every animal has its own personality, and the sooner you realize that, you can kind of get to know your animal and learn how to work with them better instead of fighting each other to train and figure out what's what.
totally.
So,
It's kind of crazy because, like, I mean, I can't remember if you said this or not, but I think she wasn't taking well to like chicken and stuff like that.
yeah, she wasn't very treat motivated, she was a dog that didn't care about her food. You could take her food away and she wouldn't care, It's like I'd rather go play with the
Yeah,
dogs right now where
yeah. And Poe's the exact opposite. Once you pull out a treat, that mother, he's just like
yeah.
he's at attention, man. He's ready. So there's a lot of like you said, the personalities of dogs. It's just like people. They're all
Yeah.
different.
She does have, I think the common thing about dogs is a lot of them, at least, they have the desire to please, even if she's not food motivated, she has the desire and the motivation to make me happy. She doesn't like it when you're upset or you're mad. It's like when you tell her she's a good girl, it's the best part of her day. So it's pretty
Hell yeah,
cool.
man. I think we're lucky. I think getting a dog for me was one of the best. I grew up with smaller dogs. We got Tank and Cupcake. We got a Maltese and a Shih Tzu. So like, it was growing up. They still love to go fish. They still love to go do stuff, but they can't do what a big dog does.
Yeah.
It's a little less action. So getting a bigger dog, it was fun to experience that, and we love to go fishing and hiking,
Yeah.
and we've had a lot of fun experiences. I've had multiple moose chase me because of him. We've run into bears. He spooked a bear off me in the middle of the river, which was great.
Nice.
I bring this story up a lot. There was a guy in Cook City, and his dog, his name is Seymour. And the reason he named him Seymour is because when he's in nature or in the woods, he wants to be able to see more, and that dog helps him do it. So always thought that was a cool name.
Oh, that's an awesome name. Yeah. He is my very first pet. Well, he's my first cat, I should say, because I had a few other pets when I was in college. But Yeah, he's a black cat. I got him also when he was about a year old, and he's about 8 now. So we've had him for 7 years. It's quite a while. He's a weird guy, man. He he scratches the area where his water is before he drinks every time. So it's like this little water dance that he does in order to make sure that his water's clean before he gives it a lick. Um, he also does not like any people food, except maybe like a tiny bit of chicken if you rip it up for him, but he won't eat any ham or he won't eat, anything, ice cream. He doesn't like any of that. He's a weird cat. He likes cat treats, and that's about it. So,
He's a cool cat. I like him.
yeah, and completely indoors. He's a very scaredy cat. He goes outside for like 5 minutes and then wants inside immediately because it's a big world out there and he's not ready to face it. So
Totally. And I mean, if you think about it, like animals, cats, dogs, they come kind of from dens, mountain lions, they like to have their caves and stuff like that. And so it makes sense that a cat would want to stay inside all the time.
yeah, yeah. So for people who don't own a dog, what's some words of expectations that you could give maybe for somebody who maybe wants to grab a dog or a cat? Actually, let's just go dog. They're a little different.
Fair. I think, for I said a little bit of earlier of like training that dog to learn how to be chill. I think that was a big thing for me. And then also like when I picked up Poe, my uncle gave me some advice to pick the biggest dog. I also believe in like I had a female come up to me first, and then Poe came up to me second, and I was like, "This is tough." It was a tough decision. So I wanted to go with that female, and then I went back and forth, but I ended up going with Poe because he was one of the biggest. I think he was the biggest dog in the litter, and he turned out well. So I think that's good advice. Is go with that biggest dog of the litter. They're more confident. They they have yeah they're more confident, which I appreciate, and I think that's kind of important when you have a dog, is to have a dog that's confident. It's nice to, hopefully they're not aggressive, but if they're confident, that's a good way to create that bond and keep working towards that. So
Nice, yeah. So Skylar's the big dog fan. I uh I would just say they're a big time commitment. I think people don't really give their dogs or their pets quite enough time or the time that they deserve, and it's a hard thing to do. It's like spending time with your animal after you've worked 8 or 10 hours a day and giving them the attention that they want. It's kind of sometimes it can be a little bit of a chore, but um, yeah, as long as you have that expectation that you're going to be able to spend the time with them and put the time in, that's what makes a good dog. You've heard the saying, "There's no bad dog, just a bad owner." So it's a big time commitment, but it pays out in love and good memories and a whole bunch of other things. So it's
totally.
it's a fun time, and I recommend getting a pet when you can. So
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I think when I was going through, I mean, we talked about my concussion on the last episode, and that's when I got Poe, and I think it really helped me like get out of a funk and find a routine and discipline and like taking him for walks, and I think it's a healthy thing for people to do, and it kind of teaches you some discipline if you are willing to put in the work and be, I would say, be a good dog owner. To be frank, you got to put that work in to teach that dog how to, to grow as well as you. So that was a big thing for me.
yep, yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Sweet, brother. Well, we just had something fun go on. We are really stoked. We've been talking about it on the chat a little bit, and we have some cool new players on our teams. We saw some cool new things happen in the NFL draft for 2024. Let's talk a little bit about where the players went, maybe, and some fantasy football implications.
Yeah, man. The draft was pretty fun to watch. I think it's getting bigger and bigger every year. I think the NFL and just football in general has more and more fans. So I talked to a lot of my coworkers who watched the draft, and that was kind of the first time that I've ever experienced people around me that aren't super into football like I am watch the college football draft. So it was a pretty cool time.
Yeah. I w- So not to like correct you there, it's the NFL draft of college players.
Of college players,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just not to confuse anybody. There is, for college football, they offer scholarships and stuff like that. So for college,
Yeah.
yeah. What did your coworkers have to say?
Um, they're not as like into football as we are, I would say, but a lot of people were just kind of surprised about the quarterbacks. You know, the amount of quarterbacks that went off the board and how early it was. It was just kind of like, whoa, this is a little bit different than any other NFL or yeah, any other
Totally.
NFL draft that we've seen. You know.
Yeah, there was a record. I think it was 14 players offensively that went in the first 14 picks of the draft, and that's never happened before. Before a defensive player went off the board at 15. I think the biggest surprise of the draft was Michael Penix going at 8 to the Atlanta Falcons because they just signed Kirk Cousins, and so
So surprising.
there's a lot of debate on that. And what I think about that is, I kind of like I love the move for Atlanta. I don't like the move necessarily for Michael Penix, other than he landed in a really good spot. I think I see why Atlanta did it. They just went through QB purgatory with after they lost Matt Ryan for the last few years. They don't want to deal with that again. What's tough is Michael Penix is 24, and so he'll be going. They signed Kirk Cousins to I think $100 million guaranteed. The contract
Yep.
is a little more than that, I think, but what so technically they want to have Kirk play for 2 years is my assumption, and then after that second year they are going to drop him and then have Michael Penix take the reins. I think what sucks for Michael Penix is since he's 24, he won't start till he's 26. He's already like tailor made to go into an NFL offense and just whip that ball around. I was hoping he'd go to the Raiders at like 13, I think is where they're at. I think it would have been a perfect fit. Him and Devontae Adams, I think it would have been sick.
Yep.
But if here in like the next 2 years, maybe even next year, if he can like push that job from Kirk and take over, I think he's going to have a lot of the weapons in Atlanta, and I also think they're putting him in like a position to succeed, which you don't see with a lot of other quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I think that's all a really good take on it. A lot of things that I've been hearing is just that he is coming out of college as a pro-ready quarterback. You know, like he is ready to go out there and start games. He's been starting games for a half a decade. Like he's ready for the pressure. He's ready to play, and it's confusing that they would draft, him after they paid Kirk Cousins $100 million. I'm curious if maybe they thought, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they thought any other QB would fall that far because I think Penix was just their guy on the board that they wanted. But I
Totally.
don't. It would make more sense to me if it was like a Drake May or somebody who was a little bit more of a prospect who needed to develop,
Yeah.
who was sitting behind someone for a couple years. But with Penix and Kirk Cousins, it was just kind of like. Oh, this is a spicy pick because everyone was thinking that they were going to get some sort of protection, possibly for Cousins or another weapon.
What I was thinking with this is Michael Penix. So you had six quarterbacks go in those first 15 or first 12 picks or whatever, right? Um,
Right.
I think after Caleb's Williams, Michael Penix was my favorite player. Not only because I'm like a Washington football fan of like the Seahawks and the Huskies and being a fan of them, but I just think he was the second best overall quarterback. He had a great arm. He had a great career at Washington. He played 2 years there and he dominated. And so like I mean, respect to them for like taking their guy on the board. Not letting like the outside noise or the potential outside noise bother them, and they got their guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on from Michael Penix, it was a very big surprise, but I just wanted to touch a little bit on how this is kind of like the first time in my life that I've followed football and kind of been able to see drastic changes of a team that's shifting from maybe say like a high flying wide receiver set offense to more of like a grindy running back. Let's hit them over and over again and we're eventually going to get somewhere. And that team for me, it's the Chargers. It was just like a complete overhaul on on how they're going to play football this year. And I think Justin Herbert's a good quarterback, and I'm kind of curious to see what this year brings him because I don't think it's going to be very good, but I don't know. It can't be much worse than the previous years. So,
It's a good take. I like that idea and that thought. I think for me, the Chargers, I think Justin Herbert is the top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I think that he is going I think Jim Harbaugh being there after watching Jim Harbaugh coach the Niners for those, just insanely competitive Seahawks years in the early 2010s, 13, 12, 13, 14. There were like a lot of battles between those teams and Jim made it to the Super Bowl with the Niners against the Ravens. He lost to his brother. I think what's gonna be cool for Justin Herbert is he's not gonna be asked like we look at a lot of stuff fantasy football wise, but for NFL perspective, I think Jim's gonna put Justin Herbert in positions and ways to succeed and be special for like let's say 6 to 10 plays a game instead of trying to be special for the whole game, throwing every down. And he's getting a legit NFL coach compared to Brandon Staley, who I mean, I don't think Brandon Staley was ready. He might be a good coach in the future, maybe not. But I think Jim Harbaugh is going to get the uh, best out of Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert, yeah, yeah, I agree. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that kind of looks this year because last year Mike Williams and Keenan Allen wasn't cutting it. And now
Yeah, I
Keenan
mean,
Allen goes to the Bears, and their
right?
offense is also completely different. They're the high flyers now, as long as Caleb Williams does something. So
Do you think he will?
I have a hard time thinking he won't. So yeah, I'm rooting
Yeah,
for
that's a
him.
good way to put it. Fuck yeah, I agree. I agree with that, man. I think what I like, I love that they drafted Roma Dunze to go with Caleb Williams. I think when you look at Roma Dunze, a lot of people compare him maybe to Larry Fitzgerald, like that kind of prospect. Maybe not as good right now, of course. He's a rookie, but having a rookie quarterback who is like an A1 prospect, and then a receiver who is an A1 prospect, and having them grow together over the next, you know, let's hope 10 years plus, but
Yeah.
assume the next 5 years for sure they're under contract. And so I think it's going to be exciting not only for Chicago Bears fans, but for fantasy football fans too. Because if you can get those two together, look out, man. That's a fun 1-2 combo.
Yeah, especially with him having Keenan Allen to kind of sit behind. The
Totally.
pressure is not on him this year. He can kind
Yeah.
of sit back and learn how to really play and develop and become that number one wide receiver. So I'm
Hell
excited for
yeah. And
that
they
too.
and they got DJ Moore too. Can't forget about DJ Moore. So
It's
like
true.
that offense is going to be fireworks. And they got the guy from Philly, the running back. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was playing for the Lions for a while. And anyways, they're going to be a really good offense. I think. Hopefully, Shane Waldron was Seattle's offensive coordinator last year or the last couple of years, and I don't know what happened with them. It's been a struggle. I think their offense was always solid, but hopefully he can take them to the next level, Caleb, and that whole offense.
Yeah, DJ Moore was a top 5 wide receiver last year. That's crazy to me.
In the NFL or fantasy football wise,
Fantasy. I think it
fantasy wise, that
fantasy, yeah.
and if you're doing good in fantasy, you're probably doing good on the NFL field for the most part. So like,
Yep.
um, yeah, and let's talk a little bit about our teams. Did you pay attention to your team's draft? DeAndre Swift, that's the running back's name. DeAndre
DeAndre.
Swift.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, tell me about, the Steelers. It looks like they had a
Oh,
really good draft from my opinion.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah, they I think they started
Nothing flashy.
off. Nope, nothing too flashy. They got an offensive lineman.
Troy
Um,
Faltano.
yep, that's right.
Yep.
He's pretty good, man. I'm pretty excited for him.
Yeah, he came in from Washington. They also drafted a center and they drafted another guard. And so what I
Yeah, the
think looks going to
center's
be cool,
Zach Frazier, and then I think the guard was J-
McCormick maybe?
maybe or Jones. I can't
So
remember
they
honestly.
drafted Jones last year,
Okay, okay.
which Um, I just think their offensive line is a complete like revamped, and it's going to be interesting to see them with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever starts. I'm going to assume it's Russell Wilson. At
Yep,
least at
I
least
think so
two
too.
start.
Yep.
Um, and so, like, having a whole new offensive line that's just built with some dudes that are huge, I think that's gonna be sick.
Yep, and I think Pickens can be the one, and I don't mind Roman Wilson. I think he can ball,
Ooh.
honestly. I think that he can make some plays and catch the ball, and I'm excited to kind of see that the one and two go together. So
Yeah, man, when I watched him play, I saw Tyler Lockett, and so I think if you can, like, I
that's a
can see
good
why they drafted
comparison.
him. I can see why they drafted him, especially with Russell Wilson there, and then having, like, what I think what makes Tyler Lockett special is his ability to, like, maybe catch in traffic or, like, you see a lot of catches with him with the toe tap right on the sideline or right in the end zone. I think Roman Wilson has a lot of that ability, and hopefully Russell Wilson can pull some of that out of him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you did it with Lockett, so
Yeah,
it's a good hope.
yeah. I'm stoked for Seattle's draft. I think they nailed it. Yeah, they also nothing really flashy. They drafted defensive lineman Byron Murphy, and I think he's going to be a stud. A lot of people compared to maybe to Aaron Donald, just like the stature wise, he might not be as good. Aaron Donald's a Hall of Famer, one of the best defensive linemen to ever play. But
But still, to be
having,
compared to him, I mean, you know, he's got to
yeah,
be good. So
yeah, and they have a stacked defensive line, so I think that's going to allow them to keep guys fresh, and hopefully Murphy can get to the quarterback and stop runs. They've been a really bad run defense the past few years, and so I think Mike McDonald's going to get in there and coach him up and do well. Someone who is really exciting to me on their draft board is um, this linebacker. I think his name's Tyrese Knight, and nobody really expected him to go in the fourth round. But after watching some clips of him, man, he gets to the football. So I think, that was one of their weaker positional spots on defense, and it'll be fun to hopefully see him flourish in Mike McDonald's defense.
nice. Who do you think leads the backfield this year?
I think it's definitely Kenneth Walker for
Okay,
sure.
still
K9,
Walker.
K9 all day, and I think Charbonnet is going to mix in, and I have no clue what that offense is gonna look like. I think so from my understanding, because Ryan Grubb is their new offensive coordinator, he comes from the Washington Huskies, and he does a lot of motion. And so what I can see and envision is a lot of motion before pre-snap, and I think they're gonna be explosive. It's gonna be maybe not similar to prior Seahawks teams as far as, like, schematically, but I think their goal is to be explosive.
Aren't you kind of excited to see the offense function without Pete Carroll, even though he did the
Yeah.
team really well? It's like I'm ready for a change, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I've been talking about it probably for 4 years now that it's ready to kind of move on from Pete. I love Pete. He brought a Super Bowl to Seattle. He almost brought 2. Um, he is the best coach they've ever had. He's one of the best coaches the NFL's ever had, and but it was ready for I'm ready for a change. I think the team was ready for the change. It sounds I mean, they clearly were. They made the change,
Yep.
and, I'm excited the direction they're going. They might not make the playoffs this year, but I think they're building towards something, and I think they have a good nucleus of, like, young players, and it's gonna be maybe not this year, but maybe next year or the year after. I think they're gonna make their way and start I wouldn't say being Legion of Boom era because that was just a team of their own. They'll go down as the great one of the greatest defenses in history, but I think they'll get to the playoffs and hopefully start dominating that division again.
Yep. Nice. And just real
Hard, it's
quick,
really hard with. Sorry, before I finish, it's going to be really hard to do that with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay as the two offensive gurus in that same division.
yeah, your division's tough, man. It's gonna be
Sucks.
interesting. I was just gonna mention the Broncos. I kind of had a little bit of an exciting draft too because of Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bo.
And then what?
Yeah, it'll be
Franklin,
interesting.
right? Troy Franklin.
Yep. Yeah. I think that was a really smart move by Sean Payton and company because, like, having a receiver you already have thousands of reps with is, I think it's really important. And so to have that, I think it'll be impactful on their offense. And hopefully, Zach Wilson's there too. What if Zach Wilson's like, hey, I was a first round pick as well. Let's ball. And so the competition, I think, will be good there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And yeah, like you said, it's a good idea to get somebody who's already played together. Maybe they can get some sort of groove going at the beginning of the season, get into the same vibe and make some good plays. Because the Broncos have been hard to watch for the last 5 to 10 years, man.
Yeah. And being in that division, like, dude, that's a stacked division. The West is stacked for the NFC and the AFC. Having the Chiefs, and then the Chargers, and now the Raiders might be on their way. Although they don't have a really great quarterback, they have an okay
That's true.
quarterback. It's just it's tough, man. Football, those divisions are definitely stacked. Them and the AFC North, our teams are definitely in the best divisions in football.
Yep.
Um, I think if Bo Nix pans out, you kind of like Russell Wilson put a damper on that, but you forget about everything. You're like, I got my quarterback now, so
Yep.
hopefully that's what happens for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I agree. I'll have to see.
Hell yeah, man. As far as like fantasy goes, any players you're super stoked for? Thoughts on?
Hmm. That's a big question, man. I'm just always excited about wide receivers for some reason. I'm excited about contract extensions. Like I'm drooling over Amon Ra. I'm drooling over AJ Brown. Like I think those guys. That's my wide receiver core in my dynasty league. So it's just like I think that those two are gonna have pretty good seasons. I'm interested to see what Marvin Harrison Jr. can do. If he's a number one wide receiver, I will be surprised and also, happy. It'll be exciting. So
Yeah, I think he definitely has the talent for it. Hopefully, he has that dog in him. Like what as people would say. Like hopefully, he's like just as passionate as his dad was, and finds a way to make that work.
true.
For me, the rookies, I think I'm stoked on Roma Dunze. And if I think if Malik Neighbors didn't go to the Giants, I'd be stoked on him too.
Yep.
Um, Running backs wise, I don't really know many of the rookies this year. But maybe we'll do a segment where we just dive deep into some of the current draft pick, not draft picks for the draft this year, but for our fantasy draft.
Yeah. Yeah, with the rookies, yeah, that'd be good. A little
Yeah,
dynasty information slash kind of experiment because I don't know, dynasty is always interesting because it changes every season, but your team stays the same, so it's kind of nice.
yeah. Hell yeah, man. Well, I need to get out of here in a second. Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I think we talked a good amount about the draft, and everybody kind of knows our pets now. So maybe I'll try and post some pictures of them, and everybody can get a good look at Tonks, Bagheera, and Poe because they're pretty cute.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, appreciate you. This was a good episode too, I feel like, for High Country Hangouts, and we're looking forward to the next time we get together.
Yeah, yeah, nice chatting with you, and thanks everybody. We'll talk again soon.